This is the only real look we ever get at Tony Soprano doing his actual job. Season 2. He's behind a desk at a garbage company in Jersey City, with his name on the door and a Barone sanitation sign on the wall behind him. And what he's doing, in this shot, is drawing up an office basketball pool. Earlier that week, he'd been doodling fish bowls on a legal pad. By the end of it, he's sleeping with the office assistant. He's only there because his lawyer ordered him to be. Because before this, he hadn't set foot in that building in 8 years. The episode's called House Arrest, and I missed what it was doing for a long time, because the show plays it as comedy. Tony's bored. He's scratching a rash. He's reading a trade magazine about waste disposal. It's funny, but look at what's underneath it. Tony's job, on paper, is waste management consultant at Barone Sanitation. That's the line he gives the neighbors. The line he'd give a jury. The thing that produces a W-2 and explains the house in North Caldwell. And his lawyer, Neil Mink, has to sit him down and tell him to get out of the strip club and go to the office. Not to work, to be seen, because the FBI is circling, and Tony hasn't been near the place since about 1992. 8 years, 1 office, 0 appearances. And Barone isn't a one-off. The show has a name for this, and Tony says it out loud. Years later, deciding whether Vito lives or dies, he lays it out for Silvio in about 11 words. You want to keep your no-show jobs? Vito's gotta go. He's weighing a man's life against a stack of paychecks nobody works for. Out loud to his consigliere, and it barely registers as a scene. I've come round to thinking that arrangement tells you more about Tony Soprano than any of the killings do. The killings get to him. You can watch them get to him. He brings them to Melfi. They turn up in his dreams. He wakes up sweating. The paycheck never once occurs to him as something that might be wrong. Let me try to explain why that particular crime gets under my skin the way it does. Rob a man to his face, and it's ugly, and it's loud, and there's somebody left standing there who can point at you afterward and say, him, that one. There's a witness. There's a story. Skimming a payroll leaves you nothing to point at. No blood, nobody hurt in a way you could photograph. Nothing anyone tells at a dinner table 20 years later. Just a figure on a spreadsheet that was always going to be some figure, and there isn't a person alive who can tell you which version of it was the honest one. Somebody paid for it though. Somebody always paid for it. Think about what a salary actually is when you slow down and look at it. It's a working life. It's the money that carries a family, with the benefits attached and a pension on the other end. It's 30 years of somebody's father coming through the door wrecked at 6 in the evening and knowing he covered it. And it doesn't stop with the man whose name is on the roster and who never turns up. The job runs longer. The road in your town stays coned off another 6 months. The guys who did show carry the extra weight. And on a site, that weight isn't an annoyance. It's height and machinery and being tired at 4 in the afternoon around things that don't forgive tired. And somewhere, there's a man who needed that job, who'd have been there every morning without complaining once. And he doesn't get it because it belongs to somebody who will never see the place. Nobody screams. Nobody bleeds. The world gets a little worse in about 9 directions at once so that one man can keep believing something flattering about himself. And if you want to know whether the show is aware of all this, it told us in season 2, and it was brutal about it. The episode is commendatory. It opens on a family called the SEO Tags, Midtown Manhattan, parking garage, and their Mercedes gets taken off them at gunpoint. The men doing it are so relaxed about it, they stop and let the family dog out of the car first. And the father, humiliated in front of his own kids, goes off on a racist tirade and demands to know who else it could possibly have been. Who else? David Chase answers him with a cut, straight to Tony, sitting there with a stack of Polaroids of the stolen cars, sighing over them like a man going through holiday photos. He ordered the theft. He's admiring the haul. 17 episodes in, and Chase had already shown us where the contempt gets pointed and where the money ends up. Which brings me to season 6, episode 11, Cold Stones, the one I keep coming back to. Tony's decided AJ is soft, aimless, never earned a thing in his life. So he does what he believes a father's supposed to do, hands the kid a business card, and tells him where to be at 7 the next morning. Construction, wheelbarrow, cement, outdoors. It's winter, and listen to how he sells it, because this is the part that got me. He tells him the pay is good. It's a union job. Every penny you make, you keep. We won't charge you rent. Then he pulls him in close and tells him he loves him and he just wants to see him do good. The worst part is that he means it, every word. Now look at the shape of it. Father and son, both hooked into organized labor in New Jersey. The son has to be standing on that site at 7 in the morning in February, moving wet cement by hand. The father's entire arrangement depends on him never being there at all. 8 years of never being there, until a lawyer made him go and he filled the days with a basketball pool. I don't think that teaches a kid the value of work. I think it teaches him that work is what happens to people who haven't worked out the angle yet. And AJ learns it. He learns it perfectly. He just draws the honest conclusion instead of the one his father wanted, because that kid has watched this man his whole life and has never once seen him labor. He's seen the house and the pool and the way grown men lower their voices when Tony walks in. He's seen people arrive with problems and leave grateful. What he's never seen, not one single time, is the bill. So when Tony tells him, be a man, work hard, AJ is listening to somebody who doesn't do that, explaining that it's for other people. And then, inside that same 56 minutes of television, Tony sits down opposite Melfi. She asks whether there's anything else he wants to get into before they wrap up. He says, how about the fact that I hate my son? I paused it. I actually sat there and paused it. Chase put both of those scenes in the same hour and just let them sit next to each other. And I've never seen anyone talk about it. Now I want to give you the other side properly. And I'll be straight with you. I've argued this side myself and I lost. The case goes, Tony works constantly, and you're not clocking it as work because it doesn't look like a desk. And the show goes out of its way to prove it. Season 6, Episode 3, Mayhem. Tony's in the coma. Silvio steps up as acting boss, and Silvio isn't some outsider. He's the consigliere, 40 years in, the man who advises the man. He lasts about a week. He's got a rule on how a dead man's revenue gets split. He's got a rule on the take from a robbery. Every decision makes somebody an enemy. Bobby's hounding him, Polly and Vito are at each other's throats, and Silvio ends up flat on his back in an ambulance with an asthma attack, while Bobby chases him down the driveway complaining he still hasn't heard back. That's the gig. It's not the hours that break you, it's never being able to switch off. Tony's managing a workforce of violent, greedy, unstable men, all armed, none of them with a grievance procedure. He's got to keep them earning, keep them from killing each other, keep them from killing him, and keep them off the phone to the bureau. And a few of them are already on it. He's negotiating with a New York family that dwarfs his and treats Jersey like a subsidiary. He's a CEO whose board meetings can end in gunfire. So what does the top of that pyramid actually pay? The show had a technical consultant, Dan Castleman, a working assistant DA in New York. David Chase told Rolling Stone that Castleman put Tony's net worth somewhere between $5 and $6 million. That's the boss. That's the ceiling. Which means everyone underneath him is spending an entire life avoiding a 40-hour week for money a decent regional manager makes without the insomnia, and ending up dead or inside, usually at the hands of somebody they'd had dinner with. I sat with that argument a long time before I understood it was making Tony look worse. Because if he really does carry all of that, if he watched what 1 week in the chair did to Silvio, then he knows precisely what a job takes out of a man. He understands the price of it better than almost anybody in the show, and he takes the money anyway, for work somebody else is doing. So maybe it's just messy writing. Maybe nobody ever bothered to reconcile him. I don't buy it. And the reason is that the same image turns up at both ends of the series. The Sopranos doesn't open with a murder. It opens with ducks. A family of wild ducks lands in Tony's pool, and this enormous, violent man goes soft over them, feeds them, stands there watching them. And when they finally take off, he goes down on the grass. That's the panic attack that puts him in therapy. The entire show exists because of those birds. Now jump to season 6, episode 18, Kennedy and Heidi. Phil controls the Barone operation by then, and he won't take Tony's asbestos unless he gets 25%. Tony tells him where to go. So the asbestos gets dumped, illegally, into open water. And underneath that scene, quietly, you can hear ducks. Where's Tony while it happens? Las Vegas. Private plane, smoking weed and taking peyote with a woman who used to sleep with his nephew, the nephew he murdered earlier in that same episode, after years of grinding him about his drug habit. Then he stands there watching the sun come up over Red Rock Canyon, out of his mind, shouting that he finally gets it. He doesn't get it. He never gets it. And here's the thing. The show diagnosed him back in that boring little Office episode, and I walked past it for years. Sat in Melfi's chair, complaining about how empty he feels, Tony gets compared to a shark. Certain people have to keep moving. Stop them, sit them still, and they're left contemplating what they've actually done, and they crash. That's the man. Somewhere under all the ego, he knows what he is and what he costs the world, and he can't be still long enough to hear it. Everything he's built rests on the story. The house, the respect, the good father working hard for his family. Pull the story, and the rest comes down. So he keeps the noise up. Hundreds of small contradictions, running constantly. He tells Furio to get over his father dying, and the show cuts to Tony weeping in Melfi's office over a racehorse. Back in season 1, he's furious when she charges him for a session he skipped, accuses her of shaking him down, while running protection rackets for a living. He'll lecture anybody who'll listen about loyalty and family, and then he goes into that coma, and Polly and Vito sit on $200,000 owed to Carmela, because if he dies, they'd rather keep it, and hand it over only once he wakes up, making a performance of how generous they're being. That's the code. That's what it's worth. The no-show job is the cleanest version of the whole thing. No target, no witness, no consequence he'll ever have to stand in front of and look at, which is exactly why he sleeps fine. I don't think the writers slipped. I think the hypocrisy is load-bearing. It's the only thing strong enough to hold up a man who hadn't been to his own office in 8 years and still believed he was the hardest working guy in New Jersey. He'd sooner be a monster than an ordinary thief. So here's what I want from you. Season 6, Episode 11 puts 3 things in the same hour. Tony trading Vito's life to keep his no-show jobs, Tony ordering AJ onto a 7 a.m. cement job, and Tony telling Melfi he hates his son. Has anyone ever laid those 3 side by side? Tell me in the comments, because I've looked and I've never found it, and I'd love to be wrong.